fear, hope for my despair. O loving God, open to me wisdom for my confusion, forgiveness for my sins, love for my hate. O God of peace, open unto me peace for my turmoil, joy for my sorrow, strength for my weakness. O generous God, open my heart to receive all of your gifts. Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, would the clerk read the notice of the meeting, please?
Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois, will convene on January 23rd, 2020, 6:30 p.m. in the Lyle Shields Meeting Room, Brookings Administrative Center, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois, in said county for the purpose of allowing and ordering payments of claims against the county, receiving and acting upon reports of committees, and such other matters as may be brought before said meeting, which said meeting shall continue in session from day to day until the completion of said business.
Okay, thank you. Can the executive get a motion to approve the agenda? Mr. Esri? Ms. Rosales? Any discussion? Mr. Gore, Mr. Glass?
Yeah, I'd like to pull item D5 off of the consent agenda.
Item D5, we can move that down to under finance, item number 3, which will be 14B, item number 3. Anything else? For those of you that got the email that had the first agenda in it, there were a couple of items that were pulled off of the agenda. There will be no items under new business this evening, so if you still have that agenda, it's the wrong one. There was a replacement, which you should have. Okay, those in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Can the executive get a motion to approve adoption of Resolution 2020-23, appointing a county board member to District 9 to fill Pranjal Vachhaspati's unexpired term ending November 30, 2020? Okay, Ms. Cowart? Ms. Dillard-Myers? Any discussion? Mr. Esri?
Should it be, the person be named in the motion?
Mr. Rosales, would you read the motion, or just who you're appointing, please?
I'm appointing Cynthia Fierce. It says there's an amber sheet or a golden sheet on your desks that actually is the actual resolution. If you would like me to read it to you, I can. Whereas Pranjal Vachhaspati, a county board member in District 9 for Champaign County, submitted his resignation for that office effective November 21st, 2019. And whereas pursuant to 10 Illinois statutes, ILCS 5-25/11, when a vacancy occurs in the elected county office, the county board shall declare that such vacancy exists, and notification therefore shall be given to the county central committee of each established political party, and the vacancy shall be filled within 60 days by appointment of the chair of the county board, with the advice and consent of the county board. And whereas the Champaign County Board Chair sent notification of the vacancy to the county central committee of each established political party, and whereas the county board chair recommends the appointment of Cynthia Fierce to fill in the unexpired term of a county board member in District 9 ending on November 30th, 2020. And whereas County Board Chair also recommends the appointment of Cynthia Fierce to serve as a member of the Labor Committee and Highway and Transportation Committee, replacing Pranjal Vachhaspati. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the County Board of Champaign County that the appointment of Cynthia Fierce to fill the unexpired term ending November 30th, 2020 of the Champaign County Board member, District 9, as well as appointment as a member of the Labor Committee and the Highway and Transportation Committee, is hereby approved.
Any further discussion?
I do have something to add. I did receive two names, and they were qualified. The interesting thing is the qualification is 18 years of age, U.S. citizen, resident of the district that it represents, and a Democratic candidate. Both candidates are basically have filled out and completed their petitions to be on the March 17th ballot. So you all are going to get in District 9 an opportunity to vote for either Cynthia Fears or Jennifer Stroud for this office. This person that I'm appointing tonight will sit in this seat up until November 2nd for the general election that will occur November 2nd. So I believe the last board meeting is in December, the first week in December. Right, so basically, that's what it is. So you'll have two opportunities to vote for your desired candidate within that period of time. The reason I selected Cynthia Fears because when we look at questions and we just interview people for 1 hour, we don't really get to know them. And my interest towards Cynthia Fears is that she's a U of I graduate in the College of Law. She worked in the U.S. Federal District as a attorney for many of the judges in the federal courts. She assisted and established basically a prisoners and college student graduate in law partnership where law students, L1, L2, and L3, would work with incarcerated individuals basically to help with their filings and help adjudicate some of their issues and concerns. She also helped to establish the law clinic that basically would provide these services to inmates. She also created and facilitated video conferencing for the federal courts regarding the prisoners and them basically saving the county a lot of money by not having to transport them from different areas of Champaign County to the county courthouse. And finally, and not least, but the things that I looked at when I looked at her questions were that she also helped establish an e-line petition for any complaints that any inmates had, and they are able to basically provide that information to their lawyers and to the prison system. So with the issues that we're confronted in moving ahead in 2020, I hear a lot of buzz regarding programs, not jails. So I think this will be an excellent addition and an extra mind, an extra legal mind that understands the incarceration and prison system in this county that could move forward programs in this county. And we need to begin to create that dialogue because I don't think we've even skirted around the issue of programs. People are expecting us to come with some programs, and I think with the assistance of Kyle Patterson and the Social Justice Committee, we could move forward, maybe even perhaps establishing another social justice task force to move that agenda of programs forward. So that was my interest. Like I had indicated, both candidates were highly qualified. You just have to look at the specifics, and the specifics that I looked at was her experience with the jail system, the legal service system, as well as with the judges, federal judges that are here locally in town. So that's why I selected her.
Ms. Furtado.
Mr. Rosales, and I believe I know the answer to this, but I just want confirmation. Was the candidate that you selected the person that was put forward by the CLC, the Central Labor Committee, of the Democratic Central Labor Committee?
No, it was not.
So I appreciate everything that you said, and I agree that the resume that you just expressed would be valuable to the board. However, I'm deeply uncomfortable with the precedent that has been set, ignoring the recommendations of the CLC. I think that elective process is important. I think it's as important for Democrats as it is for Republicans, and I think that that should carry more weight than it does in this process. And I appreciate the resume that you put forward, and I think that sounds like a great resume. Not hearing the other candidates' resume, it's a little bit hard to judge them. But this continued not listening to the party, I think is dangerous, and I'm going to be voting no. It's nothing to do with the candidate, but it has to do with the process, and I'm deeply uncomfortable with it. And if if the rest of the board should be deeply uncomfortable with it, because this indicates that whatever your recommendation is, isn't going to be followed.
Could I respond to that?
Mr. Rosales.
I think
yeah,
as board chair, I not only participate in every agenda, planning committee meeting that this board has, I also participate in all 6 committees. On top of that, additional committees like labor, litigation, and other county-wide committees. I don't think the grasp and magnitude of the chair of the board, you could equate it with central committee people that are just basically, don't show up to precinct committees. 2, they like a group, basically, side on the most popular individual, and they do not appoint to the board. They don't have appointment to the board. I have appointment to the board. So I could accept or deny the recommendation, but when I see a resume that is glaring to me, participating fully, 100%, more than any board member here in this floor, I think that, one, I have the right by statute to be able to appoint, and I think that you're entitled to your opinion, and anybody else around the table that would like not to support my candidate, they have to seek approval from this group. I have no problems with that. I'm not here to bend an arm or force an arm. I'm just saying that further consideration was needed to look this candidate over and not to be bypassed simply because there's a popularity contest. She's been in this community 30 years voting as a Democrat. I don't think that the opponent basically had been here 10 years. So my concern is, who is a card-carrying Democrat? I would imagine those with the longest standing in this community voting consistently for those issues over and over in every election. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Ingram, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Was Dr. Young invited to and participated in this process with your interviews, as we've been discussing?
I had Megan, administrative assistance. No, he wasn't.
I had a death in the family, so I had to deal with that.
Was he invited?
Those appointments don't go through policy.
Sure, but I guess if we're trying to set a precedent,
Yeah, they don't.
I think in the future it would be good to include.
Sure, you have an opinion, sure. I could
Right.
consider that.
I was informed, but I had a death to deal with, 2 deaths.
Yep, sorry to hear that. Also, I kind of will echo a little bit of Ms. Furtado's slight worry about not necessarily this particular, I mean, we only heard one resume, but it sounds amazing. And certainly we could probably use somebody with a legal mind to help us with some of the Robert's Rule stuff that we don't seem to get right all the time. But my worry about this is that we continue to say, well, this previous person set some sort of precedent, and what I'm worried about now is either party. I'm worried about let's say the next chair is a different person, and it's a Democrat, and Republicans bring forth somebody, and then the answer is, well, I don't really have to listen to you like we have in the past because the last couple people didn't do it, so why do I have to take your recommendation? I realize that's part of the statute, but we've done this for a long time, and I'm a little worried about what we're doing and the reverberations of that in the future. So for me, I appreciate the resume that you laid out, but I also won't be supporting this particular move because I don't think we should tell the parties to shove it.
Okay, any further discussion? Mr. Patterson.
Just a question for the chair. I know since I've been on the board, we've had 4 Republican vacancies. Would you consider, if there's a Republican vacancy, going against the Republican Central Committee's recommendation and appointing somebody else? So if there's a Republican vacancy, would you consider going against the Republican Central Committee's choice and selecting
That's a
somebody else?
hypothetical question that I cannot answer until it comes before me.
Okay, Mr. Young, is there anything else?
Yes, I would just like to say I will be voting for this young lady. She's very smart, and we need some legal mind, So help us to deal with the entire board that I think need to be revised and reformed. Anything I do with redone, rewritten, revamped, revised, this board needed really bad. So I'm going to support her, and I'm going to support you, Chair Rosales. I think you're making a wise decision, especially according to the experiences that I went through with this board just to get on here. Thank you.
Mr. Summers?
Just to echo Member Patterson's comments, this is to my Republican colleagues. The precedent that's being set here is that the chair does not need to listen to Central Committee from either party. In the state of Illinois, determining political party is decidedly loose. We don't have registered Democrats or Republicans in Illinois. It just goes by your voting record. So the precedent that's being set here is if there's a Republican vacancy and a Democratic chair chooses not to follow the suggestions of your Central Committee, they may pick someone that may have voted in a Republican primary and legally seat them as a Republican. Just so you guys know, that's what we're looking at here. I do want to echo that it's unfortunate that this comes up. Ms. Fears seems like she is extraordinarily qualified and will bring, I have no doubt that she'll be approved, will bring strong assets to benefit our board. But the practice and the precedent that's being set is one that both Democrats and Republicans should be deeply aware of.
Mr. McGuire?
Thank you. I don't know that a precedent that's being set by the Democrats would change the precedent of the Republicans, and the party and the statute indicates that it has to be a Republican or a Democrat. Just because the Democrats have an issue with the way they're determining their replacement doesn't mean the Republicans will when they pick a replacement. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on the question at hand?
So we can't have two different rules for each party. Let's be clear, that's not how any of this works. And it's not that we had an issue with the way that the party did anything. The party did things, I assume, probably the way that your guys' party does. Everybody who was a Central Committee member was able to have a weighted vote, and the one with the majority won. I mean, it's probably the same thing you guys do. Our issue is that the chair is ignoring that recommendation from the party. And that is not only going to apply to Democrats.
Okay, is there anything else to say on the topic about this appointment? Mr. McGuire?
I don't remember seeing you at a Republican committee meeting. Kyle, thank you.
I think we're ready to vote on this. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Have the clerk here to swear in our new board member.
Over there.
Having been appointed
Having been appointed
to the position of county board member
to the position of county board member
in the state of Illinois,
in the state of Illinois,
in the county of Champaign aforesaid,
in the county of Champaign aforesaid,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the position of county board member
of the position of county board member
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to the board, Ms. Fears. Okay, next on the agenda are the date and times of our next regular meetings. You can see we have our standing committees, committee of the whole, and the county board meeting. There is no study session planned for this month. Next is public participation. Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak this evening? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public participation. Next is the consent agenda. This will require a roll call. Can the executive get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Mr. Esri? Mr. Goss? Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Esri,
Yes.
Furtado, Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
Ingram,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Rector,
Yes.
Storr, Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Tinsley,
Yes.
Wolkin,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Clemmons, Clifford, Cowart, Dillard Meyer,
Yes.
Eisenman, Fears, Rosales.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Next is communications. Does any member of the board have communications this evening? Mr. Storr?
The Crawford County Soil and Water Conservation District and Forest Preserve is offering classes in forest habitat management. And forests are pretty important, are vital to the ecological health of our country, and having spent some time in some areas where there were no forests, I'm probably more aware of this than others, but I call it to the board's attention, and I have information should anybody have questions about this.
Any other communication? Okay, we move on to approval of the minutes. Can the executive have a motion to approve?
Second.
Ms. Cowart, Mr. Rosales? Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next are standing committee reports. The summary of actions taken on January the 7th, 2020 meeting from the County Facilities Committee is accepted and placed on file. The summary of action taken January 9th, 2020 meeting of the Environment and Land Use Committee is accepted and placed on file. Moving down to areas of responsibility. The summary of action taken at the January 14th, 2020 Committee of the Whole meeting is accepted and placed on file. And we go now to policy, personnel, and appointments. Would the policy chair make the committee's recommendation for item number 1?
Thank you. I move the number 1 adoption of resolution number 2020-20 establishing 2020 office closure for training meeting for the county clerk office.
Second by Mr. Ingram. Any discussion?
Roll call, please.
Okay. Any other discussion? Mr. Harper?
I assume this is all the different committees or county heads, the sheets you had laying on our desk.
I had a department head meeting in January, and that was all the people at the meeting.
Okay.
That's not, I mean, I don't know if it's everybody, and a couple people weren't there to answer the question, but you'll see the responses that I got.
Okay. Well, I got no problem with it because I know there's so much on everybody's plate, and I know I talked to Aaron about it at the last meeting, and I just hope all the county departments know that if they need to schedule a meeting, I hope they do, and keep all the staff informed of what has to be done. So I will be supporting this.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry, roll call. Yep, roll call.
Esri,
Yes.
Furtado, Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
Ingram,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Rector,
No.
Storr,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Tinsley,
Yes.
Wolkin,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Clemens,
Yes.
Clifford, Coert, Dillard Meyer,
Yes.
Fierce, Rosales.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Next is the Finance Committee. Would the Finance Chair make the committee's recommendation regarding item 1?
Item B1, I move adoption of resolution number 2020-18, authorizing budget amendment 19-00069 from Fund 080 General Corporate to Department 026 County Treasurer, increased appropriations $13,485, increased revenue 0. Reason is hired temporary staff to fill in for the Chief Deputy Treasurer.
Ms. Furtado, second. Can I get discussion?
Discussion.
Discussion, Mr. Goss?
Yeah, I won't be supporting this resolution for a number of reasons, but the most is standing in front of my local school board to apologize to them this week about the lack of, they're still missing $328,000 in change in their final tax distributions. Now, as I polled our caucus and asked them to go poll their school districts, I think when we get all said and done, without Unit 4 and without Unit 116, just taxing bodies that we could get a hold of, we're somewhere between $3 and $4 million. Now, I assume that probably Unit 4 might be missing as much as 2, and add in Unit 116, maybe $1 million. There's somewhere $6-7 million that haven't been distributed. The treasurer takes this money in. The money is segregated. It should be distributed at this point. I don't understand what the delay is, why we're not getting it done. I mean, we got a treasurer leaving here at the end of the month. You would think that'd be top of mind to get this money out to these school districts. A lot of these school districts operate on, Mahomet, for instance, they try to keep their budget tight. And so that means they're going to take a hit on their IASB calculation this year because they dropped their days of funding left. They were down to 65 days before they run out of money. $328,000 is not inconsequential. But it happens to be, for theirs, they're not completely complaining. Yes, they wanted it. They certainly appreciated our efforts to get this stuff straightened out. But I don't understand what the delay is. And so I won't be supporting either one of these resolutions at all, these budget amendments, because honestly, I can't see why we'd support them. There hasn't been anything done in those offices in months.
Mr. Ingram?
I have a question just to make sure that I'm getting this correct. And Tammy could probably answer this. This money's already spent, correct? This is out the door. We're fixing the budget after the fact, correct?
Correct.
So to vote against this is basically just voting for our books to be off? Am I gathering?
This will be reported on the CAFR. It will be a red mark against the county on the CAFR.
Okay, because I agree with the need to for school districts to get their money. I'm not sure how voting against these particular things helps that, particularly because this is for temporary staffing that, as far as I can tell, we need actually more of, or perhaps another person in there. But either way, I still don't see how voting against something that we've already spent to give ourselves a red mark does what you're trying to do.
Ms. Furtado?
Yeah, I just, to some degree, want to echo what Mr. Ingram said, and To me, they're two separate issues, Jim. You and I probably know more than anybody. There's going to be enough red marks on the CAFR without us going out and making more. The money's already been spent. And I'm not in disagreement with you that the money to the taxing bodies should be out to the taxing bodies. We need to do everything that we can to make that happen. This vote, while I understand it might feel good, all it does is make the CAFR worse. And I don't really understand how, as finance chair, that's something that you would do. I really don't understand it. And so I'm not at all disagreeing with your assessment of the issue. I'm disagreeing with your vote because I don't see how the two correlate.
Ms. Wolkin.
Yes, I just wanted to read a letter that was sent to me by the superintendent of Thomasboro School. It was actually sent to the Champaign County Treasurer's Office, and the Champaign County Board was copied on it. Last night, we had our January board meeting. Once again, I informed our board about the amount of money we have not received from the tax levy. At this point, that amount is $39,578. I also was informed that informed them that the $100,000 plus in interest was collected off of the taxpayers and taxing districts from property taxes, which was discussed at the December 19th, 2019 Champaign County Board meeting by Laurel Pressing. It is my understanding that the Treasurer's Office should pay each taxing body interest on that money. I have 3 questions. When we will get our tax money, the amount owed, $39,578. When will each taxing district receive their interest money that was collected off of the taxpayers and each taxing district? Number 3, will our tax bills be sent out late again, therefore creating the same situation as last year? In other words, will we receive levy money in May and June or after July 1st? To say that it has been a struggle closing out our school year, budgeting for a new school year, and then not receiving our tax money in a timely manner is an understatement. Quite frankly, if I ran my district like the county clerk and treasurer has ran their offices, I would have been asked to leave some time ago. I look forward to hearing your timely response. And I too will be voting no. I understand it's a moot point. The money's been spent, but it is a point that we're making that the money was spent that shouldn't have been. Both of these, the money that was spent here, along with the money that was spent for the CPA to do the bank rec, should have never happened. This board was aware of the problems months ago, and we did nothing. And I tell you what, if you've read the comments on Facebook, this board is getting beat up because they want to know why something wasn't done sooner. And as you've all heard from the news last night, there are people's property that is now in jeopardy because of other errors in the treasurer's office. So again, I know it's a moot point, the money's spent, but it should not have been spent. The temporary staff that was hired in that office was not qualified. So that's why I will also be voting no.
Mr. Ingram.
Just as a point of clarification, because I may be thinking about this wrong, wasn't one of the temporary staff that was hired the former treasurer? Is that something anybody can tell me? I know one person was the former board chair, but one of them was a former treasurer. Is that correct? Dan Welch, right?
Yeah, Tammy, do you want to take that?
Okay,
The first budget amendment, B1, for the general corporate fund, that budget amendment was for the interim chief deputy treasurer, Mr. Weibel. The second budget amendment, B2, was to pay for the former county treasurer, former chief deputy treasurer, and also another part-time temporary person who historically has worked in that office only during collections, but was retained in that office through the end of the year and into the first of the year. So yes, number 2 did include the hiring of former staff or not staff, but former people that were in the positions in the office before, not number 1.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Goss?
Yeah, I'll respond to that. I wanted to give everybody else a chance. If you honestly think this is going to be the worst thing on our CAFR, you're sadly mistaken. The fact that we went 13 months without a bank rec being done, I can't imagine how bad that's going to look. So, yeah, I agree the money's gone out the door. But again, I can't with a good conscience say that it was money well spent. And to correct Ms. Woken on this, that temporary staff came in because they couldn't handle the tax distribution part of it. They were never tasked with trying to catch up the reconciliations. And I mean, this went on for months and nobody said a word about it. Nobody said a word about it. I railed on it for months and you never said a word. I don't know what, if you went in behind the scenes and talked to the treasurer, good for you, but obviously it didn't do a dang bit of good. So I don't know why any of us vote for this, to be honest with you. Because if you think you're going to save the CAFR for some magical $27,000, you're not. CAFR's screwed for 2019. And I'm just not going to vote for this because of the symbolism that we should have never done it in the first place. They should have never been required. When you hire qualified people and competent people run, you don't have these issues. When you have incompetent people in those positions that don't do their job for a year and we say nothing about it and hold their feet to the fire at no point. I asked for a forensic audit in September and it went on deaf ears. No, we don't really need that. That won't be approved by the board. This, that. I mean, folks, it's a disaster. And I don't know when you think this is magically. We're not going to snap a finger and bring a new treasurer in here and fix this in 5 minutes. It's not going to go away. And it's going to drag on. If it drags on into the 2020 tax cycle, you thought I was bad in 2019. If this drags on in 2020 and screws up the tax cycle for all these taxing bodies again, it'll be an awful year. An awful year.
Mr. Harper?
Yes, as Mr. Goss has stated, our CAFR's been messed up, is messed up. It's been messed up for years as we always got rode up on the nursing home. This has got to stop. I mean, we're affecting property owners with their homes now by sale of taxes. We're affecting the students of this county. I'm sick of it. I mean, the game that's being played is crap. I mean, vote for the competent person. I know Mr. Summers and I tried to talk last March or April about something. I said, I don't care who is in office, but do your job. I really don't care. I mean, I'm a diehard Republican, and my parents are going to roll over in the grave here in just a second, but I voted for a Democratic governor years ago. And I was right, because the one I didn't vote for went to jail. You probably all know who that is. Now we got 2 of them. Well, one's out. But this has got to stop. We're not getting anything done. Darlene, I remember when you had me for coffee when you were running for that position. I said we're like 2 bulls butting heads. We're not getting anything done. I mean, I've been on boards my whole life. Throw this politics out of it. You've been on school boards. Jody's been on school boards. I've been on school. It was a nonpartisan deal. You did what was best for your school district and those kids. We should be taking care of our taxpayers in this district or this county. We're not doing it. And I know Aaron's over there, and you might be getting a little busy here shortly, it sounds like. But just like Mr. Goss brought up, in 6 weeks, we're starting a new tax cycle. And I hope Mr. Ammons I hope you have somebody in your office that is staying in touch with the state to make sure our multiplier and everything's up to date, because I know you got 100 things going on with an election. I understand that, so, but please keep us informed so we kind of know. Because if we get started wrong on that, we're right back in the same boat, like Mr. Goss said. So please, I apologize. I don't work that way. I do what's best. We have statutory requirements we have to do for this county. And there's not much money left over. What is there in the budget? 133,000 discretionary money left after the budget. You're not going to do a lot. You have to take care of what is statutorily required of this county. And we're dragging our feet and trying everything else to do it. So please, I know I'm a redneck Republican, but it's time to get something done. Thank you.
Mr. Young?
Thank you. So I'm still learning. I don't know much about this treasurer stuff and finances because that's not my forte. And I don't know what no capital is and audit and all that. But anyhow, I'm feeling the pain as a human being first, and all this politics and politics is second. But my larger question is, and I know these elected officials cannot be mandated for some kind of educational training, but Lord beholds, I think to really say who's qualified, who's not, okay, that's fine, but instilling some kind of professional development training, some kind of educational training to help these people out, all of us out, perhaps in the future, or yeah, will really be helpful. So that's my thing, that's my bag. I know politics is somewhat a little bit different from our private sector and public sector when it comes down to job. Politics is a different beast to really say who's qualified, who's not. But you also can, I guess, the person who's end up getting a job don't know the job, but they can also hire some competent people or some educated people or people who have the specialty in that area. But overall, I think it'd be nice to try to have some kind of training. Once again, I don't know, I just keep hearing that in the back of my head with this whole board. That's why I want to revise a lot of things. I want to hopefully change this political atmosphere to more of an educational atmosphere. That just me, but I think education is the key, continuing education for all of us, despite what qualification that you have. I think that is plus.
Mr. McGuire?
Thank you. I think the problem has been, just to get to that when the treasurer's second left, she put someone in the position while they had a long period of time in the office. They weren't really experienced in the responsibility of the second. And then when that person left in the last 3 or 4 months, someone's been hired and isn't currently responsible in the office that you've just discussed, that has a lot of degrees and someone who I like and understands the county, but they're not educated and they have no experience in the office, and they've been expected to do the work. I don't hire an electrician to come into my house and do plumbing. I don't have someone who's not a mechanic work on my car. I wouldn't have a doctor. I wouldn't have an electrician be my doctor. I think Pius is wonderful, but we need someone to do the job or be the second in the job that knows how to do it and is in a position. And that's why I'm against this. I mean, that's why I didn't support it before. Right now, we're in a really bad position because we don't have anybody to run the office. Bringing Welch and everybody obviously was good, but they were training people that weren't prepared to actually run the office. We need to fix that.
Okay, Mr. Storr?
Thank you. I understand that some outside people were employed in the treasurer's office to try to help catch things up. Would one of the staff know, Tammy or Ms. Kleppel, were these people accountants, or what was their background?
As I mentioned earlier, the first budget amendment was for Mr. Weibel. to fill in. Yeah, well, and he obviously doesn't have an accounting degree, which is not really required for this office. Finance background, banking background would be helpful. In regards to the second one, again, the former treasurer and chief deputy treasurer. I know the former treasurer worked for the county, I believe, for 40 years. Didn't have an accounting degree to my knowledge. The former chief deputy treasurer had a banking background.
Maybe, didn't we, weren't some people from consulting firm Clifton something hired?
Clifton Larson Allen, that wasn't paid for from these funds. That was paid for from a fund, a department underneath the county executive's purview. And yes, this
Okay,
individual was an accountant.
Okay, were they able to come in and right away perform the duties of that office, or did they have to do a little bit of learning before they were able to do the work that was needed?
They weren't tasked with performing the duties of the office. They were specifically tasked with trying to reconcile the bank accounts that had not been reconciled. Yes, they had to familiarize themselves with the county's processes and transactions and bank statements and so forth.
Okay, and these were accountants or?
Yes, this was an accountant.
Okay, well, point that I'm getting around to here, I think you'll see, is that anybody walking into this work was going to require a fair amount of on-the-job learning, and so there's quite a bit of a lag regardless of what their background is.
Mr. Harper.
One last thing, which I didn't bring up before, we're basically the central bank for every taxing body in this county. They look for us for forget what's going on in the state or the national scene. I could care less. It's a joke on both sides. But we're down to local politics, and we're required to do what we're supposed to do. People pay their taxes, they work, to raise their families, pay their taxes, bing, bang, boom. Schools need it, townships need it, drainage districts need it, whatever it might be. So the last question is, where the hell's the money at? And we're talking $6-7 million. Where's it at? Well, I mean, we haven't seen a financial statement.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote on this one. So we're back to the resolution, adoption of the resolution. Those in favor? Roll call, sorry, yes, it's a roll call item.
Esri,
Nay.
Furtado. Yes. Goss,
No.
Harper,
No.
Ingram,
Yes.
McGuire,
No.
Patterson,
Yes.
Rector, Storr,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Tinsley,
Yes.
Wolkin,
No.
Young,
Yes.
Clemens,
No.
Clifford, Cowart, Dillard Meyer,
Yes.
Fears, Rosales,
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Sorry, it needs 15. It did not carry. Motion failed. All right. Would the finance chair make a committee's recommendation regarding item number 2?
Committee recommends adoption of resolution number 2020-19, authorizing budget amendment 19-00070, Fund 619 Tax Automation Fund to Department 026, County Treasurer, increased appropriations $11,811, increased revenue 0. Reason hired temporary staff to assist with property tax billing and collections. This does require 15 votes and a roll call.
Can the executive get a second? Mr. Ingram? Any discussion? Those in favor, roll call, please.
Esri,
No.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
No.
Harper,
Nope.
Ingram,
Yes.
McGuire,
No.
Patterson,
Yes.
Rector,
No.
Storr,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Tinsley,
Yes.
Wolkin,
No.
Clemens,
No.
Clifford, Cowart, Dillard Meyer,
Yes.
Fears, Rosales,
Yes.
What about
Okay,
Young? What
motion
about
does not,
Young?
motion fails.
Ooh, you forgot about Young.
Did you not get called?
No, I did not.
Okay,
I was
you
keeping
skipped
track
Charles.
right here.
Would you like to vote on that
Yes,
issue?
I would like to vote.
Young,
Yes.
Okay. It still fails, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was keeping track.
We want everybody to be counted. Okay, and now there's an item 3 brought forward from the consent agenda. Would you like to make a motion on that?
Yeah, I move adoption of resolution 2020-7. I didn't see, did that, same number? Okay. Authorizing budget amendment 19-00062, Fund 080, General Corporate, to Department 031, Circuit Court, increased appropriations $47,587, increased revenue 0. Reason amendment to cover unexpected expenditures. There is a new goldenrod memo from Lori Hanson.
This one was pulled off the consent agenda because the amount needed to increase to cover additional special activity bills of the circuit court, and she didn't have all of them when we put it in the first time. So the amount has increased from what you saw at the committee of the whole, but it's the same resolution. Yeah. Second by Mr. Esri. Any discussion? Ms. Furtado?
I know we briefly touched on this last meeting. It does seem that the vast majority of these, except like $21, is in services. And as we've discussed, it seems, and I mean, this is a sizable chunk of money. The under budgeting here was pretty significant. So going forward, it does seem that we need to, I mean, I'm not saying we need to raise it by 50, but it does seem that we need I mean, we need to be closer to this, because it's fine doing these amendments after the fact, but if we're really going to say we have a balanced budget, this one kind of gives me pause, the level, the amount of it. So I'd like to not be in this position again next time. But I know we can't guess everything, but since most of it's in services, it seems like that's the area that's underfunded.
Okay, anything else? This does require a roll call in 15.
Esri,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
Ingram,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Rector,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Tinsley,
Yes.
Wolkin,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Clemens,
Yes.
Clifford, Cowart, Dillard Meyer,
Yes.
Fears, Rosales,
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. There's no new business tonight. Other business, we have adoption of resolution number 2020-14, authorizing purchases not following purchasing policy. Can I get a motion? Mr. Rosales, second. Mr. Summers, any discussion? Mr. Goss?
Just a quick question. Mr. Ammons, why did we not get purchase orders on these two sort of large ticket items?
So depending on which ones we're talking about first, can I see the agenda there? So the website One was the professional services, what we thought we could go under, so we thought we were following that practice of professional services, and we didn't learn until later that that was not the case. And the ADA voting terminal, this is something that I have come to the county board and I have discussed for the past year about this process. So I'm not exactly sure how or why this is on the not following the purchase policy, but maybe it was, okay, so my chief is telling me that it's the timing issue of this. So we've learned some things from this, and hopefully we'll be able to rectify this going forward.
Thank you, I appreciate the
No
update.
problem.
Okay, those in favor, this just requires a majority. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Adoption of resolution number 2020-15, authorizing payment of claims. Can I get a motion? Mr. Clifford, Ms. Cowart, any discussion? You want to say something?
I was just going to say, is this an appropriate time to ask about where we're at on the 2018 CAFR?
The auditor's here.
Hello, Jim. Yeah, as I said in the last county board meeting, I didn't want to give you a fixed date, but the hint was that it was around the end of January. The update would simply be that my chief deputy is, refining some basic financial statements, incorporate all the individual funds, which is good because the rough draft that I sent in still needs refinement. I have not heard more favorable news on either the nursing home accruals or the financial statement that is supplied by the circuit clerk. I'm downstream from those entities, and so I do call in with them periodically, but I did not do so today, so I can't give you the most immediate update. But I was assured by the chief deputy circuit clerk that he was working and closing in on his financial report.
Okay, have you updated the folks at RPC?
Not specifically, but I think RPC is well informed about our timetable.
Okay, I know that they've got grants that are being held, so I was curious if they just had called or if you'd proactively updated them.
No, thank you. No, I think that's a good reminder. I just want to make sure there's no anxiety on the part of any grant recipient. And so mental health is much easier or faster for me to talk to, but RPC is someone I'll make a stop to this week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are we ready to vote on this one? Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Aye. Motion carries. Okay, seeing no further business, this meeting is adjourned.